finishing his degree.
And once I graduate, I am confident I can get a better job, improve my country, and achieve my dreams.
Not everyone is born with the same opportunity.
In this video, I'm going to talk about how to calculate the standard deviation. So the first numbers divided by the size of the sample. So we're going to add up the 5 numbers that we have and plus 80 plus 88. And that gives us a sum of 450. Now let's divide that by 5. That gives. Now the formula that we're going to use to calculate the standard deviation is this formula. So we're going to take the difference of each x value and the mean, and then we're going to square those differences and take the sum of those squares, and then we're going to divide it by n minus 1. So let me show you how to do that. So the mean, which is 90, then it's finished. Minus 1 is going to be 5 minus 1, or 4. Now let's do this one step at a time. 82 minus 90 is negative 8. So this is going to be negative 8 squared. But once you square it, the negative sign won't matter. And then it's going to be plus 3 squared. 98 minus 90 is 8. 89 minus 90 is negative 1. And so forth. And then divided by 4. So go ahead and type this in. So we have 8 squared plus 3 squared plus 8 squared plus 1 squared plus 2 squared. So that adds up to 142. Divide that by 4. Four. Standard deviation is the answer. plus 2 squared. So that adds up to 142. Divide that by 4, and then take the square root of that result. And so we have 70, the numbers now. And so you should get a standard deviation of 5.958. So plus 3 squared, plus 8 squared, plus 1 squared, plus 2 squared. So that adds up to 142. Divide that by 4, and then take the square root of that result. And so you should should get a standard deviation of 5.958. So this in the table. So we're going to take the sum of all of these numbers, and then we're going to divide it by deviation of the sample, and then squared. Numbers, so this is do so much writing, and then we can simply write, so that's going to be plus another 4 squared. 69 is 11 units. 18. So now the difference is the square root. So now you know the standard deviation for this problem is 11.709. So now you know how to
Beach bay na sana. Kaso, oh my gosh! Switch to Head & Shoulders. Get rid of excess oil and dandruff so you stay fresh while having fun. Head & Shoulders.
Mean and the variance of the square 10 actually is your average or the mean. Or 6 minus 8 is negative 2, 7 minus 8 is negative 1, 8 minus 8 is 0, 9 minus 8 is 1, 10 minus 8 is 2. Then you square the deviation from the mean. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. This is 0. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. Again, you find the sum. This is 4 plus 1, 5, 6, 10. Then find the average. 10 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equals 2. Actually, this is your variance. And the square root of your variance is your standard deviation. So the square root of 2 is equal to 1.41. deviation from the mean. 8 minus 4, negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. This, then find the average. Square root of your variance. Is your standard deviation. So the square root of 2 is equal to 1.41.
I have to
Let's check out tab 9.
Pretty impressive. I'm so impressed with this.
Code completion on steroids.
In this video, we're going to talk about how to make box and whisker plots. Now, what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to identify 5 key data points in your data set. The first 2 are very straightforward. It's the minimum and the maximum. Now, the other 3 data points are the first quartile, the second quartile, and the third quartile. Now, once you have that, you can plot those things on a number line and then draw the box and whisker plot around that. So let me show you an example so you can see how this is going to work. So let's say we have the numbers 11, 22, 20, 14, 29, and then 8, 35, 27, 13, 49, 10, 24, and 17. So first, let's determine the 3 quartiles, in addition to the minimum and the maximum. The first step is to arrange the numbers in ascending order. So the lowest number that we have here is 8, and then 10, and then 11. Now let's cross out those numbers. The next number is 13, and then 14, and then 17. After 17, we have, see it here. So at this point in our list, 2 equal parts. So we keep doing that until we get the middle number. This will give us the median, which is equal data. Is Q1. That is Q1. The thing we need to do is the lowest value in the data set, which is 8. And the maximum value is the highest value in the data set, which is 49. Now, we need to check to make sure that these 2 values are not outliers, because if they're outliers, they're not going to be part of the box and whisker plot. They will exist outside of that, which the outlier 1.5 times the IQR value to Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR value. So any number that is outside of this range, that is part of the data set, is an outlier. Now, the IQR value, the interquartile range, is basically the difference between Q3 and Q1. So Q3 is 28, Q1 is 12, so the interquartile range is 16. So using this interval, it's going to be Q1, which is 12, minus 1.5 times 16, and then Q3 is 28, plus 1.5 times 16. Now let's get a calculator and plug these numbers in. So 12 minus 1.5 times 16, that's going to be negative 12. And then 28 plus 1.5 times 16, that's 52. So not negative 8, but 8 is in this range. So 8 is not an outlier. It is the minimum of the data set. 49 is also between negative 12 and 52. So 49 is not an outlier. So now that we know we don't have any outliers, at this point we can draw the box plot, or the box and whisker plot. Let's begin by creating a number line. So let is approximately right there. Put a line Q3. The line that. But now what? So let's consider an example in which that's the case. So first, let's write out a list of numbers. Let's say we have the numbers 18, 29, and then try. So we have it's 9, and then 40, and the line. Let's go parts. So what we put in, so it doesn't wait. numbers dot in this range. 15 is in this range, in the box in which start with a number line. We're going to 20. So let's start with Q1. Q, we're going to put 3 dot and 10 and at 76, which should be somewhere around here. Exists.
Are you interested in graph databases but don't know where to begin? Neo4j Sandbox is the best way to get started.
Now to show the outlier, all we need to do is basically put a point at 76, which should be somewhere around here. And that's basically it. So that's how you can show the outlier that exists basically outside of the box and whisker plot. Thanks for watching. In this video,
In this video, we're going to look at how to find quartiles and construct a box plot. First, let's define what quartiles are. There are 3 quartiles that you'll be finding: Q1, Q2, and Q3. Q1 is also called the lower quartile, and Q3 is also called the upper quartile. Q2 is just the median of the data set, and this is something you already know how to find. Now what quartiles do is they split your ordered data set into 4 pieces. So let's take a look how to find each quartile. First thing you're going to do is put your data set in order from least to greatest. Then you're going to go ahead and find the median of the data set. This is your Q2. So you're really finding your second quartile first. If you take a look at the example that you see on the bottom of your screen, you'll see that we have a couple of data values listed already in order. Your Q2 is your median of your data values. In this case, it's the number 5. Next, we're going to go ahead and find Q1, or your first quartile. To do that, you're going to look at the data values that are positioned before Q2. In this case, we have the values 3, 4, and 4. We're going to find the median of these 3 values, in this case, which is the number 4. And this is our Q1, or first quartile. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the 3 values that are positioned after our median, or Q2. In this case, the numbers 6, 8, and 8. We're going to find the median of those 3 numbers, which we have as the number 8, and that will be our third quartile, or Q3. Let's take a look at an example. All right, here's an additional example of how to find quartiles. Our data set here will be 5, 6, 12, 13, 15, 18, 22, and 50. Notice these are already in order. Now, since this is an even number of data, our Q2, or median, will fall between 13 and 15. So we have to go ahead and find the average. That means Q2 is equal to 13 plus 15 divided by 2, which is 28 divided by 2, or 14. Now we're going to go ahead and find Q1. So we're looking only at the values that are above or to the left of Q2, and that means that our median of those values will fall between 6 and 12. So our Q1 is equal to 6 plus 12 over 2, or 18 divided by 2, which is 9. Now to find our Q3, we're going to look at the values from 15 and up, and that median falls between 18 and 22. So our Q3 is 18 plus 22 divided by 2, or 40 divided by 2, which is 20. So that means that our quartiles are as follows. First quartile is 9, second quartile is 14, and the third quartile is 20. Let's see how our quartiles can be used in our 5-number summary that can be used to construct a box plot. Now, a 5-number summary is just a summary of 5 values. We have our minimum value, which is the smallest value, our 3 quartiles, and then our maximum value. We're going to put these numbers together to create a picture or a graph called a box plot, which is also sometimes called a box and whisker plot. Now, to construct a box plot, we need, again, those 5 numbers. Once we have those 5 numbers, we're going to arrange them on a
find quartiles in Excel using the quartile function. We want to calculate Q1, Q2, and Q3. The first, second, very easy. Between here and cursor, so il.exe and .inc. Let's start by using the quartile.inc function. So I type in .inc, comma, and the quartile. So the array of numbers is in column B, the grades. So I select the entire column of grades by putting my cursor in the first cell with grade. Entire column by pressing Control, Shift, and the down key. You can also select the data by clicking B51 selected as the array of grades. So now I have B1 is just like when you select. Okay, so now we have B1 through B. I'm going to type in 1 for quartile 1, the first quartile. Now I close the parentheses, but before rather than relative cell references. I do this by selecting the range B1, and then I hold, and then I press F4. $. Okay. Now I want to calculate Q2 and Q3, and simply 1.25 into E8, comma, and quartile 2. So let's change the 1 to a 2. Now let's enter. So let's 3 here to a 4. The largest grade. That would be the mid. Let's enter, and we get 55. So 55 is, and press enter, and we get 50. Handle up. Yes, that works. Then we need to change the quartile from a 1 to a 0 for the minimum. The small c, well, first is 1, 2, and 3. So let's see what happens. Let's click into F7 and quartile to select the select term and the letter cell ranging. For quartile choices 70.2, 1 to it, change the and press 2 is that quartile dot range of 0 to 1 inclusive of 0 and
Welcome back, guys. Now in the first video I mean, variance, and also the standard deviation. Now we have the 570 ES Plus. Well, this calculator is a bit different. It's the newer version compared to the 570 MS. Now again, the table is the same. This is the midpoint into that's stat, or we are, or rather keying in the data into the calculator. So first of all, we are going to hit mode. Look for number 3, that's stat, or short for statistics. Okay, so tap number 3, and you'll see the screen is filled with all this AC to clear the screen. All right, we don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just type AC to clear the screen. All right, now to key in the data, all right, we need to get out the table. We need to put the values into a table. Press data. So tab number 2, and we have a table or a column, but it's only for X. So it won't work because we need for X and also for the frequency. Now to get or bring out the frequency column, we have a table. Look at them. So press Shift and 1. Look at number 2. That's data. So work because we need column. We press Shift mode. Okay. But we have to go down, so press the down arrow, and number 4 is stat or statistics. So number 4, and it's asked us frequency, so yes, we want it to be turned on, so frequency on, that's number 1. So now do you see I've got 2 columns, one is for X and one is for frequency. X is for midpoint, frequency is the number of ribbons over here, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and key in these values. Now the midpoint starting with 28, so 28 equal, it jumps down to the next row. Next one, 33 equal. Next one, 38, 43, 48. Okay, so I've got 5 rows there. Can you see that? Okay, now for the frequency, so I just jump to the right side, go all the way back up to the first row. First frequency is 14, 14 equal. Second one is 18. Next one, 26 equal. 30 equal. And finally 12. Orange button here, AC. We need to prepare the working. To find mean. So I'm going to show you how to find these values from the calculator and these values from the calculator. Okay, so first let's start with the mean first. All right, so shift 1. Okay, but this time we're looking at number 3, which says here sum. So I key number 3, and you see there's sigma x. Well, sigma x will give us this value. So I tap 2 equal, and there you have it, 3840, 3840. Okay, 3840. All right, so if I go back to shift 1, okay, so now here if I key in number 3 again, there is no option here to obtain the total frequency, which is 100. Okay, there's no option here. But if you go to shift 1 and if you go to number 4, we have it right there. That's number 1. And so if I type 1, I press equal to, I get 100. So that's 100. Okay, right now for the mean answer, so again I press shift 1, we look at number 4. So number 4, and you see the symbol for the mean, that's number 2, x bar.
The journey of our new legends has begun. This is Play Maya. Witness as our rising legends compete for over 10 million pesos in prizes. Over 3,000 teams have.
Hello everyone. In this video I will show you how to calculate average, standard deviation and variance. For this exercise I have taken this example. We are having sample of 5 data calculate data. So we are 8. So once the data part is done, enter AC key. So it will save your data in memory. 6.1. So we'll enter 6.5 equal 7.5 cosine, then 8, then 7.2, and finally 6 point AC key. So it will save your data in memory. Once the data part is done, enter AC key. So it will save your data in memory. Next thing, what we want to calculate. So we will press shift key and then we will go in stat menu. If you can see here, stat is written on the key 1. So we will press 1. So it's asking what we want to opt. So we are going for variance 4. Press 4 key. So here M, if you press 1, this will give you the total number of data points. X bar, this will give you the average. Row X, it will give you variance, and SX, it will give you standard deviation. So first we will calculate X bar. So we will select 2 and we press equal to. So 7.2, this is the average, and if you can see 7.2, this is the average of this data given in this example. Now we will go for standard deviation. Again we will go in menu, variance. So for standard deviation, SX 4. So for deviation in the end, we will go in menu and we press equal to. So 7.2, this is the average, and if you can see 7.2, this is the average of this data given in this example. Now we will go for standard deviation. Again we will go in menu, variance. So for standard deviation, SX 4 equal sign. So standard deviation is 0.58736. So in this example they actually truncated the output to only 2 digits. Similar manner, if you want to calculate variance, go again in the menu, select variance, and now go for row X3. So this is the variance. Thank you very much for watching.
80% of all data breaches involve stolen or compromised credentials. It's actually very difficult.
So just wanted to create a quick video of how you can get the best out of your calculator.
Hello everyone. In this video I will show you how to calculate average, standard deviation and variance. For this exercise I have taken the standard deviation and similar manner if you want to calculate variance, and now go for row X3. So this is the
In this video, I want to show you my TI. So let's get some data and see how we can use our calculators to make this box and whisker plot. Alright, so the first part we need to do is get all of this data into the calculator. Press your Stat button, Edit, and then simply enter in all of your data values. So get all of this data. Alright, so
In this video, we're going to talk about how to make box and whisker plots. Now, what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to identify 5 key data points in your data set. The two numbers. The average of 11 and 13 is 12. So this is Q1, the first quartile. Now the median will be between these two numbers. That is the median of the upper half of the data. So the average of 27 and 29 is 28. So that's Q3, the third quartile. So we have Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now the next thing we need to do is identify the minimum value and the maximum value. The minimum value is the lowest value in the data set, which is 8. And the maximum value is the highest value in the data set, which is 49. Now, we need to check to make sure that these two values are not outliers. Because if they're outliers, they're not going to be part of the box and whisker plot. They will exist outside of that. Now, what we need to do is we need to determine a range of numbers in which the outliers can't be. So it's going to be Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR value to Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR value. So any number that is outside of this range, that is part of the data set, is an outlier. Now, the IQR value, the interquartile range, is basically the difference between Q3 and Q1. So Q3 is 28, Q1 is 12, so the interquartile range is 16. So using this interval, it's going to be Q1, which is 12, minus 1.5 times 16, and then Q3 is 28, plus 1.5 times 16. Now let's get a calculator and plug these numbers in. So 12 minus 1.5 times 16, that's going to be negative 12. And then 28 plus 1.5 times 16, that's 52. So not negative 8, but 8 is in this range. So 8 is not an outlier. It is the minimum of the data set. 49 is also between negative 12 and 52. So 49 is not an outlier. So now that we know we don't have any outliers, at this point we can draw the box plot, or the box and whisker plot. Let's begin by creating a number line. The lowest value is 8 and the highest is 49. So let's start from 0 and let's go by tens until we get up to 50. So first, let's plot Q1. Q1 is 12, which is approximately right there. And then Q3 is 28, which is just under 30. And then draw a rectangle. Now Q2 is 20, so we're going to put a line here. So as you can see, this is Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now our next step is to plot the minimum, which is around 8. So there it is. And then the maximum is at 49. So we're going to put a line just below 50. And so that is the box and whisker plot that corresponds to the data set that we see here. So that's how you can draw it. But now what about if we had an outlier? How would that impact the box and whisker plot? So let's consider an example in which that's the case. So first, let's write out a list of numbers. Let's say we have the numbers 18, 34, 76, 29, 15, 41, 46, 25, 54, 38, 20, 32, 43, and then 22. So if you think you know what to do, feel free to pause the video and try it. So let's begin by putting the numbers in ascending order. So we have 15, 18, 20. And so here are those numbers. And then after 20, it's 22, and then 25, and then 29. After 29, it's 32, 34, 38, and 41. And then after that, it's going to be 43, 46, 54, and then the last one is 76. So we have a total of, let's see, this is 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 numbers. So we want to split it into 2 equal parts. Let's put a line between the 7th and the 8th number. So we got 7 numbers on the left side, 7 numbers on the right side. So the median is going to be the average of those 2 numbers. The average of 32 and 34 is 33. So this is the second quartile. Now, we need to determine the median of these 7 numbers, which is going to be the middle number, 22. But let's replace 22 with a line. So we can split the left side into 2 equal parts of 3 numbers. But I'm going to put 22 on top, so you can see that it represents Q1, the median of the left side of the data. Now 43 is the middle number of range in which no outliers should exist. So Q1 is 22 and IQR is 21. Q3 is 43. (22 minus 1.5 times 21), and that is equal to negative 9.5. And then 43 plus 1.5 times 21 is 74.5. Now, are there any numbers in our list of numbers that is not in this range? 15 is in this range, but 76 is not. So therefore, 76 is the data into 4 equal parts. So it's Q3 minus Q1. So it's the difference between those two values. So it's 43 minus 22, which is 21. So that's our IQR value. Our next step is to see if we have any outliers. So first, let's calculate the range in which no outliers should exist. So Q1 is 22 and IQR is 21. Q3 is 43. (22 minus 1.5 times 21)
Kailangan ng refund? Sure ka sa Lazada.
Hi, minus CFB times I all over F, where L is the lower boundary, N is the total number of frequencies, CFB is the cumulative frequency from below, I is the interval, and then F is the frequency of the first quartile. Okay, so our first step in getting the quartiles, okay, this step-by-step process, lahat po na magiging process natin dito will be applicable sa lahat ng quartiles. Ang mag-iiba lang is the formula. Now, our first step, your first step is always to get N over 4. Ito lagi yung first step natin. Yung fraction sa loob ng ating formula, that should be our first step. So, N over 4, again, N is equal to 50 over 4, that is equal to 50 divided by 4 is equal to 12.5. Now, what are we going to do with 12.5? We are now going to locate 12.5 in our cumulative frequencies. Now, 12.5 is somewhere in between 11 and 24. Nandito po si 12.5. Now, ano ibig sabihin nun? We have to get our quartile 1 class. Now, if 12.5 ay nasa gitna ng 11 and 24, yung mas mataas na cumulative frequency, that will be our quartile 1 class. Quartile 1 class. Ibig sabihin, dun po natin kukuhanin lahat ng values for our quartile 1 formula. Okay, now we have our quartile 1 class. We can now get L. Again, what is L? L is lower boundary. To get the lower boundary, we have to get the lowest score of our quartile 1 class, which is 31. And then, since we're talking about lower boundary meaning yung boundary ng last score bago yung score ng lowest score ng ating quartile 1 class, that is 31 minus 0.5. 0.5 here is constant. Kapag kinukuha natin si lower boundary, constant po si 0.5. Lagi tayo magma-minus ng 0.5. So that is equal to 30.5. Now we have the lower boundary. Next, we're going to get CFB. That is equal to CFB, cumulative frequency from below. Now, since the CF of our quartile 1 is 24, and CFB means cumulative frequency from below, kukuhanin natin yung nasa baba. CFB is equal